The Indian Army is forever in operations, from guarding two sensitive borders against Pakistan and China, to counter-terror operations in Jammu and Kashmir, to insurgency in pockets of the northeast, and then there is disaster relief. So at 1.2 million or 12 lakh strong, India has the world's second largest standing army. But paying salaries and pensions takes away 87% of the defense budget, leaving just about 13% for buying new weapons and equipment. The Army Chief, Gen Bipin Rawat, has a radical new plan, and India Today's Sandeep Unnithan gets you details of that plan. Defending more than a 4,500 kilometer long border and line of actual control with China, and 3 borders with Pakistan, including the 770 kilometer long line of control and 110 kilometer long actual ground position line at the Siachen Glacier, the Indian Army is forever in operations. This, apart from counter-terror operations and disaster relief effort. But with 87% of the Army's 1.2 lakh crore budget going to pay salaries and pensions, and a mere 13% left for capital acquisition, General Bipin Rawat, Chief of the Army Staff, has come up with a radical plan to cut the flab and fight the Battle of the Bulge. India Today has exclusive access to his game plan. The aim is to do away with existing bulky divisions. The aim is to form lean, integrated battle groups, reduce the number of officers posted in army headquarters, pull out serving officers from non-critical appointments. There's a high thrust on information warfare.
सेना को तैयार करने के लिए हमने संगठनात्मक परिवर्तन, तकनीक का समावेश, हथियार प्रणाली उन्नत करने और नई प्रणाली को शामिल करने के लिए एक व्यवस्थित तरीके से सेना के पुनर्गठन की शुरुआत की है.
The Army Chief has also proposed increasing the number of 2-star generals or major generals and making the post of a brigadier non-selection grade. The major generals will be commanding the integrated battle groups deployed closer to borders. The Army Chief's aim is to reduce the number of soldiers by 50,000 to 100,000. Reduce the size of the army in the next 2 to 5 years. The annual estimated savings would be between 5,000 to 7,000 crore rupees.
Instead of just talk, the BJP should actually walk the talk. And in the coming interim budget, they should provide all necessary expenditure to the armed forces.
The reorganization hopes to reshape the army to fight under 2 overhangs: nuclear and budgetary. Both the potential adversaries, Pakistan and China, are nuclear armed. The structural reform in the army are to fight a war at a short notice. The current reorganization aims to operationalize the Army's cold start doctrine that came into effect after the attack on the Indian Parliament and Operation Parakram. The ambitious project also has in the pipeline the plan to reduce the number of army commands facing China from the present 4 to the proposed 2.
Army Chief General Bipin Rawat has set into motion a dramatic plan to restructure and reorganize the Indian Army. It hopes to transform the world's second largest army with over 1.2 million soldiers into a lean, mean fighting machine. For India Today, this is Sandeep Unnithan in Delhi.
Ambitious, but will it work? Let's get down to brass tacks. Joining me on the broadcast, Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry, the man who planted the tricolour on Siachen Glacier on Baisakhi in 1984. Sir, welcome on the show.
Also with me is Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, former Director General of Military Operations, a Special Forces veteran. Sir, happy Army Day and welcome on the show. My first question is to India Today's Executive Editor, Sandeep Unnithan. Sandeep, the current situation looks rather alarming. There is little money for a big wish list, from attack helicopters to utility helicopters to assault rifles, tanks and missiles. How grim is the situation today, Sandeep?
Well, Gaurav, it's really grim because as somebody in the army told me that pani sar se upar chadta ja raha hai. Every budget, the gap between the revenue and the capital just keeps on increasing. And they are actually projecting a situation when you will have over 90% of the army's budget being devoted to revenue and just 10% for capital. And I'll tell you what the problem here really is. There is a fundamental difference in the way the army looks at the defense budget from the government's view of the defense budget. The army says that you're spending only a little over 2% of the GDP on defense. You need to spend more than that. The government says we are actually spending over 4% on of the GDP on defense, because they're including the pensions as well.
Okay.
And pensions, Gaurav, is a very, very big concern for the government because, as you know, India spends double the Pakistan defense budget only on pensions.
Okay.
So there is a real need to cut down on manpower.
Okay, Jen Kulkarni, will the integrated battle group concept work, that when you're facing either China or Pakistan in different battlefields, you have a small integrated team, it has its own tanks, its artillery, its infantry, its armored personnel carriers and infantry going in together?
You know what happens with this integrated battle groups? Basically, they're terrain specific. And since they're terrain specific, positively, I would look at it that they would work. You know, otherwise an infantry division, yes, is time tested. There is no denying the fact. And it has been a success till date. But there is no harm in trying integrated battle groups which are terrain specifics, because this would ultimately lead not just to economizing on the troops on the ground, but also ensure that the two front, which is almost a reality, we can be catered for. From say the number of divisions that we have to having integrated battle groups would shoot up to almost 114 number, and that's quite a large number, and all being you know, officered by a major general.
Yes.
Helps, definitely helps.
Okay.
You have definitely more experience and terrain specific integrated battle group.
General Bhatia, the chief is working on a plan to reduce manpower. 50,000 to 1 lakh reduction perhaps in the next 2 to 5 years. This will save 5 to 7 thousand crore rupees. But don't we need additional manpower for a strike corps in the northeast?
Definitely, Gaurav, you need. Now, what's happening is that, the army has to be present, relevant, future ready. It is not that just we do our present job, we have to be future ready also. And in that, we have to ensure combat effectiveness. We have to ensure a viable war prevention strategy, a war waging strategy, and a war fighting strategy.
Okay.
Now, we have to understand that there are certain organizations suboptimal in our army. These are old organizations, and these need to be, restructured. And that is what is exactly happening. And we are actually going to, integrated battle group. We got to carry the battle in the war waging scenario into enemy territory, okay, into adversary's territory. That is the main thing, the proactive strategy. So how does that work? So you have lean, mean, agile, mission-oriented teams, the battle groups, and they are the ones who will carry the battle ab initio into the adversary's territory.
Excellent.
So that is what is exactly going to happen. And let me also just put a little bit, 87% is not pay and pensions. 87% is revenue budget of the Indian army.
So pay, pension, ammunition, fuel.
Absolutely. The running cost, the operational cost, the day-to-day cost, the army is functioning every day. We are deployed on 3,488 kilometers Indo-China border, the line of control, the AGPL, the Northeast agencies, the Kashmir thing. So it is, and the training. So it's all encompassing. It is not just the pay and allowances.
Absolutely.
And our army is also, I'll take another second, 56% of the defense budget is only army.
Yes.
So 56% of the defense budget is only paying for 1.2 million people of our soldiers. The rest 0.2 million are being, 2 lakh plus, are Air Force and Navy.
Yes.
And there's 6.15 lakh civilians also being paid from it.
Yes.
So just target the army will not serve the purpose.
Fair
what
enough.
we need to reduce is, take a holistic look under MOD.
So civilians also
there.
need to go down is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. There's suboptimal
Sandeep,
organizations there also.
Fair enough. Sandeep, is there a larger national objective? Is there a national security strategy given out by the government? Because without that, this is just an internal exercise of the army.
Well, exactly, Gaurav, you hit the nail on the head, and a national security strategy is being prepared, as we understand, by the NSA, Ajit Doval. That is due sometime this year, and that's going to be one of the last acts of this government, which is to give us a proper national security doctrine, which has never been done in the last 60 or 70 years. And the only thing that we have is the RM's operational directives, which are given down to the armed forces. And the sad part is that those directives, most of it are actually written by the armed forces themselves. So you really don't have the kind of political oversight that you have in other countries.
Kulkarni, what is our national security strategy? What is the aim? Are we a million-strong army to protect every hill along the border with China or Pakistan? Or are we to protect, strategic points and then, if required, go into their territory and then, if there is a negotiation, barter?
See, what happens is the future wars are not necessarily going to be a conventional war. It's a hybrid war, psychological war, cyber war. And therefore, any strategy which has credible deterrence, if you are fighting a two-front war, it needs a credible deterrence against, say, one adversary and a punitive deterrence against the other adversary.
Yes.
Even if we can maintain that and maintain the integrity of our borders, I think that should be adequate. I don't think at any point of time we are interested in taking anybody else's territory.
Fair enough.
As long as we can deter a war, and as long as we can deter anyone from having an evil eye on us, I think that should be fair enough.
General Bhatia, the aim is to get maximum bang for the existing buck in the current scenario. So even China is reducing its manpower. I mean, they've already said that they've come down from 3 lakh troops to they want to come down, reduce it by another 100,000 troops, from 300,000 to 100,000. Is that doable for us to reduce by another 100,000?
Yeah, I won't like to put a figure to it, but yes, there are suboptimal organizations, like I said, and we have to understand that it is not the army alone which is going to fight the wars. Wars are going to be fought. It's whole of a union approach. It's a nations go to war, armies don't go to war. Neither armed forces go to war. So there's a lot of it which can, if you go for joint warfare, joint training, joint intelligence, joint structures. You'll be saving a lot of manpower out there. Also, there's a lot of manpower which can be saved from other organizations which are there within the army and within the MOD also. So aim is to reduce, to get the best. And how do you get the best? Your 68% of her equipment is obsolescence.
Yes.
Okay. So when you have old equipment, your running costs multiply. So it's a egg versus the chicken, this thing.
Okay.
What comes first?
Sandeep, isn't this just a drop in the ocean? 5,000 to 7,000 crore rupees. Aren't more drastic measures required? There was some talk of a proposal to auction off some cantonment land and use those funds for modernization.
Well, Gaurav, again, you hit the nail on the head, I must say. The fact is that it is a drop in the ocean because when you look at the whole defense budget, if the government says the defense budget is 4 lakh crore, let's have a debate on the entire defense budget. Let's not only confine it to the armed forces or only the Indian Army, for instance. Let's look at the whole defense budget in its entirety. Is the nation getting the bang for its buck, for its defense buck? Are we getting enough for 4 lakh crores? Are the services fully equipped? Are the DRDO labs producing equipment on time? There needs to be a big national security debate on if we are getting the bang for our 4 lakh crore that we are spending.
Okay.
It's one of the top 5 spending defense economies in the world. I mean, and we are clearly not in the big league. We are not in the league of the 5 superpowers, So we got to have a serious debate on this. Coming to the other point of defense land, now I think there needs to be a relook at the way defense land is being held. We've seen scandals that have taken place in the near future, in the recent past of the Adarsh scam, for instance. A lot of the defense land that is held by the defense estates of the defense ministry, that needs a serious looking into. And if there is surplus land, then I don't see the harm in
General
auctioning it.
Kulkarni, MOD holds 17 lakh acres of land. Can some of that land be identified and auctioned off, and that money be used perhaps to buy helicopters and rifles and BPJs, or go and pay for salaries and pensions?
This would be seen as a knee-jerk reaction, disposing of. Even today, we would not be having adequate land the way we are looking at it. You see the field firing ranges. You see the short ranges. There aren't any. The weapons have to be fired. You have to have training areas. Now you find that defense land, though it might look to be a very big number, 17 lakh acres of land being occupied, but the kind of army we are a 1.2 million army. Even if you reduce a lakh, it become 1.1 million army. It would require training areas. It would require areas to live. The kind of accommodation that we are giving to our men, we aren't giving full accommodation to everybody. It's just that the people who join the army are from villages, and therefore they would right now prefer to keep their families in the village. But with the kind of urbanization that is taking place, they would much like their families to be brought and stayed with people.
No, but can cantonments be relocated, for example, that land be auctioned off, or if there are massive golf courses, can that land be auctioned off and that money be used for, General Bhatia, be utilized for modernization?
See, we have to understand that this is not, we can't disassociate the cantonments with the mobilization plans. On the one hand, you have a proactive strategy. What happened in Prakram? We took too long. There was an attack on the parliament. We took just too long to get our act going.
Okay.
We can't do it a second time. We have to start right from the beginning, and everything is enmeshed. It is weeded into your plans, it's knitted into your plans. You just can't say, okay, this cantonment not required, that cantonment. No, don't look at the land. Look at the whole thing. And is that the only way that the money has to come? No, there are many other ways. Like I said, let the three armies, the army, navy, and the air force, let the authority and the accountability align. Today, it's not aligned. The authority is with the service chiefs. The accountability.
Okay.
The authority is not with them. The authority is with the Ministry of Defense. So there is a mismatch out there. I cannot spend the money I want to. 59,000 crores plus, nearly 61 crores is going to the 41 ordnance factories and the DPSUs. The cost we are getting we can get the same thing at a much less competitive cost.
Okay. No, for example, I'm coming on this issue of land. For example, the army itself wants to close military farms.
Yeah.
Military farms has a lot of land.
That's been done.
Military farms is being done.
So that land can be auctioned off, and that money can be used to buy bulletproof jackets or helicopters.
Let me now just put it in a correct perspective.
Okay.
You see, we have the ADAM installations. Today, only 33% of the men have accommodation authorized, out of which only 50% is there. So it is not that the lands are there, the land is required. Today, if you look at it, as per the authorization, as per what is given, the army is itself holding about 20,000 acres less. Okay, so this military farm land is being utilized
Okay.
for purposes like our ADAM installations have to come up, our ammunition depots have to come up. Our ammunition depots, wherever you're authorized 5,000 let's say tons, you're holding 15,000 tons, and that
Okay.
is how our ammunition goes off, because the space is not there.
Or for example, I'm just talking about generating funds. Spectrum. Army has a lot of spectrum. Can surplus spectrum be auctioned off and that money be used for defense modernization?
See, it again depends upon the aspects whether they should be, if it's 100% safe, and if we so feel that in future, at least for the next 20 to 30 years, the spectrum is not going to be used, by all means a thought could be given. But a knee-jerk that you sell off the spectrum and then we're looking for another, maybe just after 5 years, when the info warfare, the cyber warfare, the space warfare all starts playing up, then we said, oh, we did a mistake by surrendering a part of our spectrum for commercial purposes and ended up doing nothing. In fact, even now, there was some kind of a thing with the MTNL, and what has happened? They said they would do this and so many things. Not many things came up on the ground, even though the trade thing was there.
Okay.
So I wouldn't recommend that anything should be done with the aim to get money for tomorrow, for something to be done today and suffer in the long run.
Okay.
Our systems don't work that way.
Yeah.
Our system, whatever funds we get for, let's say, what the spectrum was given last time, we got NFS, that is Network for Spectrum.
Yes.
That's about 10,000 crores only. Whereas the spectrum, a couple of lakh crores. So it goes to the Fund of India. It doesn't come to the army alone. It doesn't come to this thing.
If that is feasible,
No, you see,
to use those funds, of those lakhs of crores can be used
the nation
to
has
modernize the
we have to
armed
understand nation has
forces.
got competing priorities. What we need to do is whatever the budget is there, which the nation can afford, we got to use it optimally. That is not happening.
Okay. Sandeep, younger profile for commanders is a good idea. What about Jawans? Jawans who retire with just 17 years of color service. So they join at the age of 20, may retire at the age of 37. What does this reorganization have for them?
Well, Gaurav, this is one of the biggest problems that's faced our planners for several decades now. The fact that you have 80% of the army retiring every year. in the age group of 30 to 35, and they have to be paid pensions for the rest of their lives. So that is a huge burden. I mean, this is no telling on the service, the absolutely stellar service that they render for the 15 and 17 years that they are in service. But the army is now looking at ways that they can be brought back into the system. And one of the thinking processes I am given to understand is to re-employ soldiers who are retiring at 35 into the army, into jobs that are presently done by defense civilians, for instance.
Okay.
So to replace the existing defense civilians who are retiring with soldiers who have kind of retired.
Jen Kulkarni, that's possible?
See, what happens is, keeping the longevity in mind today, better health care, I think, yes, there would be definitely a large number who would be wanting to stay on. But there will still be a sizable number who would want to leave. So I would, in my view, feel an option be given. Yes, it's extendable. That means he's not denied his pension. It is 17 years today, you could make it to 19 years. No problems at all. But making it compulsory beyond that, there are certain places where, say, an infantryman, the rigors of service.
For example, then General Bhatia could be employed elsewhere, like Defense Security Corps for now, or elsewhere in the army.
Yeah, definitely. You have trained manpower. World over, you want to retain quality manpower, trained manpower, and out here we are sending him at the peak of his training, and we have spent so much money on him.
Yes.
So we need to retain him longer. Whether in the frontline jobs or the support jobs, but we have to train him we have to retain him longer. There's no doubt about it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So that is all I have time for in this debate. And this is that India Today edition. This is General Bipin Rawat's radical plan to reorganize the army. Sandeep, is there a timeline by when will this be implemented? And there is a pilot project that's currently underway.
Yes, Gaurav, there are these two studies, two IBGs are going to be set up under the Western Command, and they're going to be tested out in the field in 2019.
Okay.
And so hopefully before General Rawat retires at the end of this year, we will see how this IBG concept of his plays out in the field.
Okay, this is the cold start doctrine that had been talked about after Operation Parakram, after the attack on the Indian Parliament, and now it's being implemented on ground. We will continue to report on the story very closely. To all my guests, many thanks for joining me. That is all I have time for on India First this evening. Many thanks for watching, and you must read about General Rawat's radical plan in this edition of India Today.
Thanks for watching the video. For more such news and updates, please like, share and subscribe to India Today. Also check out our other great videos from our channel. We know you would love to.